shark terrorizing a tiny resort community. In a naive first attempt to bait and trap the murderous fish, Police Chief Martin Brody, played by Roy Scheider, throws bloody chum into the water, flinging it absent-mindedly into the vast ocean surrounding the fishing boat, talking the entire time. Meanwhile, behind him, the great white shark rises from the deep, his jaws filling the background. It is the chief's first glimpse of what he's dealing with. Stunned, amazed, he jumps to his feet and slowly backs toward the captain steering the boat and announces, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." There are no sharks surrounding the island of Canadian Unitarianism. We face no imminent danger should we continue, becalmed but afloat, just as we are. Should we run adrift, we have ample power of the winds of change and the rudder of tradition to ably navigate our craft. But I fear we've been thinking too small. The numbers tell the story. Statistics Canada reported in the 2001 Canadian Census, long form, that there are over 17,000 Unitarians, but our official membership of our member congregations of this Canadian Unitarian Council stands at just over 5,000. 17,000. I don't doubt it. A survey of Canadian history, an observation of the politics, psyche, and social mindset of Canadian questions of identity in what John Ralston Saul deems this fair country reads like a Unitarian tract. We Canadian Unitarians have limited ourselves. We have launched too small a boat in what we imagine to be a protected little lake of faith, instead of understanding our Unitarian message as a potential power craft, surveying a sea of possibility. We are accustomed to seeing our congregations as so many separate canoes paddling a smooth river of ritual, when we are better suited to outfit a yacht in an ocean of potential. For Canadian Unitarianism to thrive, not just survive, it is time to build a bigger boat. Not bigger buildings, not a bigger institution, but a bigger ideological boat. Canadians, Unitarians, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Last summer, the Reverend Peter Morales, president of the Unitarian Universalist Association in the United States, spoke compellingly about the future of our faith. He said, "The great challenge facing us today is whether we become the vital religious movement we are called to be, or whether we decline steadily into irrelevance. The choice is whether we allow our history and tradition to become a prison, or whether we use it as an inspiration that guides us as we embrace new possibilities in this new century." What I hear in Morales' challenge is the call to dare to boat, to make room for a bigger, more welcoming spirit, more meaning, more joy, more hope. We're going to need a bigger boat, and we're going to need 3 things to build it. To build that bigger boat requires covenant and connection and commitment. First, we need to heed our covenant. We have to move ourselves beyond the narrow confines of dissatisfaction that create paralysis by analysis. You've heard the old joke explaining why Unitarians are such lousy singers. Because we're so busy reading ahead to be sure we agree with the words. We laugh, but we laugh at our peril. That points to a tragic triviality that places our identity in danger, an identity too often expressed by what we are not. I fear our boat is too small when I hear more complaints about hand-holding at a benediction than questions about hand-holding at a deathbed. I fear our boat is too small when I hear more qualms about prayer than alms for the poor. I fear our boat is too small when there's more attention to announcements than to rites of passage. I fear our boat is too small when I hear more earnest debate over the quality of coffee than our quest for meaning. We create a frivolous faith when we consent to mock its depth by wallowing in shallows of debate like, hey, did she just say faith? What does she mean by faith? And what are they wearing? Our faith holds the promise for bigger conversations, that bigger boat, if you will, a sacred vessel to keep afloat our dearest dreams while drowning our deepest fears. The work of covenant is to hold that useful tension and the higher meaning beyond our individual particularities and peculiarities, and steer instead toward communal wholeness and welfare. We're gonna need a bigger boat. And to build that bigger boat, we're gonna need connections. We gathered here have already taken the first step. 90% of life is just showing up. Making connections calls us to stay involved and informed about our communal concerns, our collective identity, this Canadian Unitarian Council. When we build connections between people, between generations, between congregations, from coast to coast to coast, then together as a welcoming, engaged, and justice-making people, we can take a stand in the world. We're gonna need a bigger boat. And we're going to need commitment to build that bigger boat. Commitment is where we put our own hook in the water. You'll never reel in a shark if you insist on wading in a pond. Canadian Unitarianism will only be as strong as the commitment of its congregations and their members. And when you hear someone railing against the entity vaguely named the CUC, let us respectfully remind one another that the CUC is you and me. There is no someone else to point to. As Unitarians, affirming the worth and dignity of all persons, we are all someone. As Isaiah Barnwell sings, we are the ones we've been waiting for. At the heart of commitment is the willingness to find the boundaries of one's own optimal frustration. That is, a practice of committing to what you are completely comfortable with and then try for one step more. That's how spiritual growth happens. And here, our three calls, covenant, connection, and commitment, intertwine. I offer you now a simple spiritual exercise in this regard. I want to first introduce you all to some paragons of commitment so that we can practice both covenant and connection together. Putting our faith into action starts as simply as an attitude of gratitude. I think it bears repeating to first introduce again and invite to stand the members of the host committee, First Unitarian Congregation of Toronto. Will you please stand up? To the Canadian Unitarian Council, have devoted it to us, and their work and ours is sustained by our hardworking staff and board. Will those in our procession of the nobles from our parade please stand up?